everybody. I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, joined by my friend and co-host Aiden. And after the Yankees sign Marcus Stroman, the big question that's left is, what's next? Is there another move? Like, is this it? We really don't know. Obviously it feels like the rotation at this point is full, barring the falling of a market for Blake Snell or Joe Montgomery, or the White Sox moving off of what seems like an impossibly high price for Dylan Cease. The New York Yankees are probably going to just ride with the rotation right now and reassess at the deadline. That doesn't mean they can't add to their bullpen. That doesn't mean they can't maybe add a bench piece or whatever it may be. But I feel like this is the last big time move, like to the rotation or the lineup. I don't think they're doing anything to change their starting lineup either. But the Strowman thing kind of developed out of nowhere. It felt like we were going to sit here kind of waiting out the starting pitching market. We weren't sure if the Yankees were going to do anything. All the reports indicated that they were going to try to do something big, but it never really felt like any of the moves made sense. It was like, yeah, they're going to try to go big, but they're not willing to spend for Snell or Montgomery. Yeah, they're trying to go big, but they're not going to trade Spencer Jones. It was like, well, then what are they going to do? And this came out of nowhere. In a sense, it kind of feels a little bit like the Josh Donaldson situation where, you're acquiring a guy who, there are a lot of question marks. It kind of came out of nowhere. But I would say this, the Yankees are a better team now than they were without Marcus Stroman. That's apparent, like their rotation was in shambles. But right now, Aiden, what's the next move in your eyes? Do you think they're done? Like, where's your radar right now with the New York Yankees and their next move potentially?
Yeah, Ryan, when all that news started coming out last night, I didn't have very happy reactions to it, whether it was on Twitter or when we went live last night. But, it's just because I just didn't think Strowman was really the answer to the Yankees rotation hole. Not saying I wanted them to go out and sign Snell to some crazy big deal, but I thought maybe they could have found something better on the trade market. But the more I've thought about it, as much as I don't like Marcus Stroman, as much as I don't like that he's badmouthed the team in the past, it makes the team better. Like, the rotation is better than it was yesterday, and you can't really complain about that. I think there's a high ceiling there, but what I was so unhappy about is that when we found out that they were signing Strowman, that really felt like that's it. They're not going to add anything else to the rotation. Like, why would they go out and sign Blake Snell to a 5-year deal when they can just reassess the rotation at the trade deadline? Like, if a Corbin Burns becomes available at the trade deadline, I think that's something the Yankees are all in for. Or maybe Shane Bieber will be available at that point and he'll be having a good season. Or they reassess next offseason in free agency when the market for pitchers is still good. I think someone we've all had our eyes on is Zach Wheeler, but I think if the Yankees are going to make any more moves, it's not going to be anything massive. I think, we'll see a couple depth signings, whether that's something in the infield, the outfield, or in the bullpen. As far as the rotation goes, I think they're kind of done there. I think they have all the depth they need. They have their 5 guys, and then they have guys like Heel, Warren, Hampton, as depth, Luke Weaver too, that they just signed yesterday. But if anything, I think something at least somewhat notable that isn't a depth move per se, I think they'll be adding to their bullpen. And one option that we both really like, we've talked about before, is Robert Stevenson. He has that wipeout cutter. Like, I don't even know if it's classified as a cutter or a slider because it moves more like a slider. It's an absolutely insane pitch. Like, going through his film, I was just like, this looks impossible to hit, and this would be perfect for the Yankees bullpen. I think he has a great pitch mix. The Rays really helped him out when he went over there last season. And, it's not like he's a expensive option. It's not like you're signing Jordan Hicks to that 4-year, $11 million a year contract that he just signed to. I think Fangraphs projected Stevenson to get like a 2-year deal for $10 million. And, I'm not normally into paying relievers, a sizable sum of money, but a guy like Robert Stevenson is an exception because his wipeout stuff, his numbers have been there. Anytime you're taking a guy from the Rays, especially a pitcher, you're probably doing something right. You're probably going to get a good player who's been refined in the past from what he was. So, I think the ceiling is high there. There are maybe some other relievers on the market that I don't know, Ryan. Like, who else do you see relief pitching wise that could be added to this bullpen that would be a nice, notable addition that fortifies the bullpen?
Yeah, so Robert Stevenson is a guy who led all of baseball in swinging strike rate last year, which, to me that matters. Like, the ability to go out and get swings and misses is extremely important to how well I think of you can pitch at the major league level, especially when you're talking about relievers. The ability to miss bats is imperative to your success, especially as a reliever in high leverage situations. I mean, Aiden, think of it from this perspective. If I'm bringing you in with a runner on second and nobody out, I can't afford for you to give up 2 batted balls because that could score a runner. I need a strikeout in there, right? I need a strikeout. Stevenson got batters to swing and miss 24.8% of the time. That's for a swinging strike rate. That is the percentage of strikes that were swing and missed at. So that's ridiculous. Like, you throw a pitch in the zone or you throw a pitch that gets swung at, and only at 1/4 of the time they come up and they miss. That is 4.8% better than Felix Bautista, who, if you guys are not aware, obviously he underwent Tommy John surgery, but I mean, we got a good look at him. He can throw 100 miles an hour. That fastball doesn't drop, and he has a splitter that moves like crazy. He can dice up a lineup. Funnily enough, the third pitcher on this list, and the only starter that's like remotely close to being on this list, is Spencer Strider at 18.9%. And another reliever who is a free agent and is on this list in the top 10 is Keenan Middleton at 17%. He would have actually led the Yankee bullpen in swinging strike rate. He's not going to cost much. I can tell you this, he is interested in returning to the New York Yankees. I have it on good information. He has an interest. He's willing to come back. It's not like he prefers the Yankees over anyone else. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there is an interest in returning. It's not like he doesn't want to come back. If the Yankees make an offer, I'm sure, he'll consider it heavily. You can throw him in the back end of your bullpen. He's not going to cost you a ton. He's not probably going to be a multi-year commitment. But, I mean, I just get it. I just look at, like, as you mentioned, Robert Stevenson. It's almost, like, intoxicating, the idea of Robert Stevenson on the New York Yankees. His cutter/slider kind of, we'll call it like a cut slider, or I don't want to call it the other word that people use for it because it's a little bit out there. That word is, I'm not saying it on this podcast, getting clipped for it. But his cutter had a 59.5% whiff rate this past season, which is just, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not human. A 52% chase rate as well. So not only when they swing, they're coming up empty more than half the time, but when he throws it out of the zone, they're swinging at it more often than not. That's ridiculous, right? He has a pretty good slider as well. His slider had a 139 stuff plus. 14 fastball has a good stuff plus, but it got hammered, so I'm not sure about that pitch. Splitter's pretty good. Overall, a really good arsenal. Yes, he's entering his age 30 season. Yes, he only has really that, like, one, like, you would say, like, 3/4 of a season of success, but those were a dominant 3/4 of a season where he struck out over 40% of batters and walked under 5% of them. So I look at him and say he is a guy who could close out games for you. He is a guy who has a different look than everybody else in that bullpen. Nobody else in that bullpen relies on a cutter the way that Stevenson does. And if you have him and Holmes as a two-headed monster as your closers, good luck to anybody trying to hit you. You can, kind of extend games too, like, or shorten games through a rotation. Let's say Marcus Stroman is pitching and he gives you, 5 1/3 innings pitched, and you can turn to that nasty bullpen. You just got to get the final, you got to get the final three innings and 2/3 with your bullpen. You'll shut the other team down if you have a lead. Stevenson and Holmes cover 2 of those innings, and you got to go to Hamilton for an inning and 2/3, right? Like, you're done. Like, no offense to any other team, but they're not hitting that. Like, the Yankees will win that game. They'll win that game 2-1 or 3-2 or whatever it may be. But the ability to shorten games, the ability to help your pitching staff in that regard. The Yankees have a lot of depth in their bullpen and in their pitching staff as a whole. They have Luis Arraez, who has a minor league option. Same thing with Yoendrys Gomez. Clayton Beater has all 3 of his. Will Warren has yet to even start a service clock, so he will have all 3 of his when he's placed on the 40-man. Ron Marinaccio still has an option. Another guy that doesn't get talked about enough that has a minor league option is Nick Ramirez. He put up a sub-3 ERA across 40 and 2/3 innings for the Yankees last year. He's left-handed, so that helps. He has a minor league option, which is huge because the Yankees don't have to debut the season with him on the team. They can send him down. They can call him up when they need him for the entire year, and I think that's huge for them. And ultimately, looking at this bullpen, they're going to be stacked regardless, but making that addition of Stevenson it makes you that much better. It makes Scott Efros your 7th best reliever. It makes Luke Weaver still your 8th guy, like he is your swingman type of dude. But I like the idea of Luke Weaver as like a 2 or 3 inning guy. I like the addition. I think it's a smart signing. But one avenue I do think that they could get interested in is I wouldn't be shocked for them to kind of look to replenish their farm system a little bit. And I'm not saying they'll trade Glaber. That's not what I'm implying. What I'm saying is I look at a team like the San Francisco Giants, who they've been rumored to want a young athletic shortstop. They have a lot of young pitching. I look at their AAA depth chart and I go, there are a couple guys who are on the 40-man roster. The Yankees need to clear out 40-man space. I see a situation where Oswald Peraza goes to San Francisco and you can trade for like a guy like Mason Black or a guy like Keaton Winn, who is, a guy who can impact your major league pitching staff in 2024, but will likely start out in AAA. I personally am a big fan of Mason Black. He has 2 good fastballs, 2 good sliders, which that's a unique profile. He has a gyro slider and a sweeper, a 4-seamer and a sinker. He should be able to play to lefties and righties, lower slot release. But yeah, I think the Yankees are going to look more so. It's just kind of like spring cleaning on their roster. They're just going to tighten some things up, make sure everything's good. I think that's kind of my gauge on the pitching staff right now. Aiden, if you were to predict an addition for the Yankees, whether it's Stevenson, whether it's Middleton, whether it's a trade or whatever it may be, what do you think is their next move? Do they try to clear out some 40-man space? Do they go out and try to, what is their next move in your opinion?
Well, I guess I have 2 predictions here, and you mentioned both of them because I like that you mentioned both of them because they make a ton of sense, and that's Keenan Middleton. I think he makes a lot of sense cost-wise. He's not going to cost terribly much. I think, you sign him to, a 1 to 2 year deal, probably no more than, $6 million, I think. You don't have to pay him a crazy sum of money. He's a good guy. He's a good pitcher. He was above average last year. He had a 95 FIP minus, a 78 ERA minus. That's great. His ground ball rate jumped dramatically. He kind of hovered around a 38% ground ball rate in his career, or, actually before last year, it was more of a 26 to 25 to 30% ground ball rate, and it jumped up to 56% last year. That's a crazy ground ball rate, and that's something the Yankees love in their relievers. We talk about this all the time. I'm not really too sure where his swinging strike rate is, but, the guy's got good stuff. I think cost-wise, it's really good. It fortifies that bullpen. It makes it better than it is right now. And he was solid with the Yankees last year, so I think that's something they go for. I also love Middleton because he's got a lot of energy. We saw him coming off the mound screaming a little bit last year, and I like that. We've both said the Yankees need to bring more energy to this team, and they've kind of done that this year. Alex Verdugo brings some energy. Juan Soto obviously has that energy, that Soto shuffle. As much as, we like and dislike Strowman, he brings energy too, and Keenan Middleton has that energy too. So, I like that as a move, and I think that's something the Yankees will probably end up doing. And you also mentioned, trading Peraza. I think that's something the Yankees are gonna have to do at some point this year. If they don't, then I don't really see Peraza ever having any kind of a stable MLB career. I mean, that's kind of a bold prediction. He's a great player, right? I think he's going to have a good MLB career. I just don't think it's with the Yankees, and they should sell on him while his stock is so high, and they should have done that probably last year or the year previous, because there's just never really been a spot for him on this team. And when he does come up, he doesn't exactly perform how you want him to. And the Yankees haven't really shown a willingness to give him, much of a shot, I think. He's been up and down. And even when he is up, he's kind of platooning with DJ at third base. So I think they should sell on him high, because I just don't see much of a spot for him this year. And if you can trade him to a team like the Giants and replenish that farm system, that's a great move, because, you always want the farm system to get better. And if Peraza has no spot on the team, then what's his role really? You already have Rizzo at first, Glaber at second, Volpe at short, LeMahieu at third base, even with Cabrera too. I think Oswaldo Cabrera has more of a spot on this team than Peraza does down the line, I think. So, yeah, those are my 2 predictions. I think, you sign Keenan Middleton, you trade Peraza. If not Peraza, maybe Oswaldo Cabrera, as much as I love him and as much as I want him to be a long-term utility man for the Yankees. But those are 2 moves that I think the Yankees end up moving from here.
Yeah, I think, and I wanted to pull up the exact quote from the San Francisco Giants president of baseball operations, Farhan Zaidi. And so he mentioned that he wanted a shortstop, a young shortstop, somebody with athleticism, defense. I'm trying to find the exact wording he used. There we go. We're going to try to advance our goal at the start of this offseason, which was to try to improve our athleticism on our position player side, particularly at shortstop and center field. When you're looking at premium defensive positions, you usually want guys who are in their 20s. The younger guys who still have all their speed and athleticism. And so, it'll be an interesting week for us in terms of trade targets. That was back at the winter meetings. Now, I don't think that his desire for an athletic shortstop has changed. I don't think he's thinking to himself, never mind, don't want an athletic shortstop. That sounds horrible. And so I think that just makes sense. Like, I just think that fit would make a lot of sense. I don't think that the Yankees would require a lot from as you mentioned, because of the fact that Peraza's value on the Yankees is pretty limited. I don't think that we're going to see, I just don't think that we're going to see the Yankees ask a lot for Peraza. I don't think the Giants are going to offer a ton. But again, like I hearken to a guy like Mason Black. I just think the fit is so good. Like I love his profile. He's entering his age 24 season in AAA. Isn't even on the 40-man roster yet. So from the Yankees' perspective, this would clear out a roster spot. And if I'm not mistaken, they need to clear one before they sign Marcus Stroman officially. They cannot sign Marcus Stroman without clearing a 40-man spot. So, look, could they just say, all right, we're DFAing, like, Jeter Downs? And I apologize, because I've been, like, saying they're just going to DFA Jeter Downs, like, 3 different times, and I have nothing against him, but, like, he's a pretty easy DFA candidate. But, ultimately, like, the New York Yankees are in a pretty good position to, at least get kind of replenish their pitching depth a little bit in the organization, the farm system. They also happen to draft really well in terms of pitching, so I'm not, like, too concerned about their ability to find pitching in the draft. And ultimately, like, Aiden, are the New York Yankees going to be getting like a top 100 prospect? No, but are they going to be able to get guys that like make their farm better, and potentially they turn 1 or 2 of them into a nice reliever for them, and maybe they find the outcome where you turn one of them into a starter? Sure, maybe that happens. But you just want to have as much farm depth as possible. Also, in a potential trade, like let's say the Yankees do get involved in the Corbin Burns sweepstakes, could they be like a guy who's in their top 15 in the organization, let's say? Are they one of those guys away maybe from pulling off the deal and pulling the trigger on a deal that gets them one of the best pitchers in the sport? That can end up happening, right? We can't just think about trades now. Trades can happen at the deadline. It looks like the Yankees are only going to make another big trade at the deadline. It doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. I know that Luis Arraez might be available, but Aiden, I'm kind of getting the sense that would be a pipe dream for the Yankees, and we haven't gotten any reports the Yankees would be involved. There is no reports that anybody is involved. It's just like the Marlins are kind of shopping offers, and given that the fact that they hired Peter Bendix, who was the former Rays GM, it's not shocking that they're shopping players who are about a year or 2 away from free agency, and that they're looking to see what value they can get. I would say that, and I wanted to get your take on this just because I know that Alex and I recorded about this earlier in the day, and I just wanted to see what you thought. If I'm the Yankees, I think they match up well. Like, I think the Yankees have some of the things the Marlins need: infield depth, catching depth, position player prospects, but I don't think the New York Yankees and the Marlins are going to come to agreement on a deal in the winter if they were for a guy like Luis Arraez. I think if the Yankees do any more trades, it's for lower impact players. It's not, packaging a bunch of their prospects to try to get another big piece, but the fit makes sense, right? Like, the fit is natural. Luis Arraez just kind of makes sense for New York. He makes sense for the Yankee lineup. What do you think that the Yankees are going to shop around for him? What would you offer him? And is this more of a deadline thing that they maybe could revisit? Or do you think that Luis Arraez, maybe not necessarily to the Yankees, but to any team, gets moved this winter?
Like you said, I think it's more of a pipe dream, and I think it's a pipe dream for most teams. Like, I don't think the Marlins are going to end up trading Arraez. I think they're kind of just shopping him around right now to see, like, what they could really get for him, and maybe what they could get for him sometime down the line, because I don't think he's going to be finishing out that contract with the Marlins. He's a free agent in 2026. But, like, I mean, that's the thing. I think Arraez would fit well on the Yankees, and I think that maybe the Yankees would, in that potential deal, they would maybe try and get some kind of pitcher attached to that deal, because I think the Yankees, something tells me that the Yankees kind of like the Marlins, their pitching depth, like their pitching lab. So, like, I think Arraez would fit so well with the Yankees, though, because, like, the Yankees don't really have a true leadoff guy right now. Like, you're either giving that leadoff spot to, like, one of LeMahieu, Volpe, I guess maybe like Judge or Soto, but those last two, like, that's not guys I really want in the leadoff guy in the leadoff spot rather. Soto just makes a ton of sense for leadoff because of how much he gets on base, but he's not exactly great on the base paths. But Arraez is a true leadoff guy. He gets on base. Ryan, my favorite quote, and not my favorite quote, but one of my favorite quotes in cinematic history, Billy Beane, he gets on base. Like, how can you not like that? He gets on base, whether he's walking or whether he's just poking a single somewhere through the infield. Like, you can't not like that. Like, his BABIP is crazy. I believe it was, I'm trying to look for it here. It was 362 last year. Like, that's a crazy BABIP. I don't think that's sustainable, but his career BABIP is 343. Like, how can you not want this guy as a leadoff hitter on your team when the Yankees, they need that true leadoff guy? Like, he's a table setter. You get him on base, then you got Judge and Soto behind him. Something tells me that if Arraez was on this team, he's going to have a lot of runs scored next year. So, I mean, like, but what do you even offer for Arraez? And if you trade for Arraez, that kind of means someone's out of a spot in the infield, and I think that guy would probably be Gleyber Torres. As much as I love Gleyber Torres, Sam mentioned this on Twitter, I saw earlier today. The Yankees haven't really shown a willingness to extend Gleyber Torres, and I don't think, I don't think they'll be re-signing him, to be quite honest with you, because if you have to pay him, it's going to be a lot more difficult to pay Soto, and that seems to be a priority for them. So Arraez has more control than Gleyber Torres right now. Gleyber, I believe, is a free agent at the end of the season. Arraez isn't a free agent until 2026, so you're getting your leadoff hitter, your second baseman, for the next 2 years. That would be great, instead of Gleyber running out his contract at the end of the year. So you add Gleyber in that deal for Arraez, and I think you add probably like one or two prospects to that deal. And the one thing that Arraez isn't great at is his defensive metrics aren't great, but like, we kind of already get that from Gleyber, so like, you're kind of just upgrading here, like you're getting a true leadoff hitter. And like, not that Gleyber can't lead off, but I just don't like him in the leadoff spot. But like you said, Ryan, this is more of a pipe dream. This is just pretty unrealistic. I don't see it happening. It was just kind of, it seems like a one-off thing that John Heyman mentioned this morning, that the Marlins are kind of entertaining the idea. I don't think it actually happens. I don't think he gets traded this offseason, and if he does, if he does get traded, it's either this deadline or it's somewhere in 2025.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that the Marlins are hanging on to him for now. And, they are capable of being competitive. I think they would also want an MLB-centric package. And, it's not like the Yankees are in a position to trade MLB-ready position players, right? Like, they would rather keep them. Not saying that Peraza and Pereira are players they'd rather keep, but are those the two players that the Marlins are going to, take hand over fist for Luis Arraez? I'm not necessarily sure. I think they would want more, and I think they would be in every right to add more, to want more than that. So, I would love the fit. I think it makes a lot of sense. As you mentioned, right, what's the long-term future of Gleyber Torres in New York? It doesn't seem like the Yankees are interested in keeping him around long-term, so there's that. And of course, the big thing that still remains when it comes to any conversation about a trade is, what are the Marlins going to ask for? How high is their price tag? How motivated are they to move Luis Arraez? What are other teams willing to offer? Because I imagine the Yankees wouldn't be the only team saying, hey, can we have the NL batting champion? I'm sure there would be a lot of teams lining up for that. But with that being said, I think the best way to end this would be to just say, look, the Yankees right now, as things stand, have gotten a lot better over this winter. Now, have they done it necessarily in the ways that we all envisioned they would? No, I did not imagine Alex Verdugo and Marcus Stroman would both be on the New York Yankees. But I think right now, in terms of how much they've improved, in terms of having, an offseason where you make impact moves, Aiden, I'm going to give them an A right now. I don't know what your grade is, but I'm giving them an A. They made an addition to the rotation. They made an addition to multiple additions to their lineup. They didn't jeopardize their financial future long term. They're still in a great position to sign Juan Soto for the long term future. And again, like they put together probably a top 10 pitching staff and a top 10 position player group. I think that's a win. They didn't get rid of Spencer Jones or just Dominguez. The only big time young player they lost was Drew Thorpe. So yeah, like I'm giving them an A for this right now. I'd like to see a reliever. Maybe we could say A-, or I would say maybe A- because maybe I want a reliever, but it's going to be a letter grade of an A. They got Juan Soto. They added a pitcher. A starting pitcher. Verdugo and Grisham should help their outfield depth. They've made a flurry of moves to like kind of strengthen their back end pitching staff. Aiden, what's your letter grade for the offseason right now? And, what could make you feel better about it? Realistically, obviously, like trading for Corbin Burns would make us feel better about it.
I think anytime you acquire Juan Soto, you got to give the offseason an A. I mean, like, the guy is a beast at the plate. He's basically like a modern day Ted Williams. We've made that comp a lot. And especially given, where the Yankees were offensively this past year, granted they didn't have Judge for half a season, but still, like that offense should have been a lot better than it was. And that was their biggest glaring need heading into the offseason. And you go out and you add a top 5, probably top 3 hitter in baseball. Like, you can't give that offseason anything lower than an A, I think. What would make me feel better, not adding Alex Verdugo and Marcus Stroman, because those are just 2 guys that Yankees fans do not like, but they make the team better. This team looks a lot different than it did on, July 31st, August 30th. It looks a lot different. The rookies are still going to get their chance to make an impact on this team, like Austin Wells, Jason Dominguez at some point. What would make me feel better? Just go out and add some depth, add a reliever. Like, I really think to really put the cherry on top for the offseason is just add a reliever like Stevenson, Middleton, or someone else. Like, someone that you is going to fortify this bullpen. That's how I feel about the offseason. I'm not going to give it anything lower than an A- because you got Juan Soto. Like, you can't really be mad at that at all.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we got the guy we needed to get. Like, I've seen people suggest on social media, like, how do you make the Juan Soto deal knowing you didn't get Yoshinobu Yamamoto? No, like, if the Yankees got Yamamoto and not Soto, I would not be very happy with this offseason. Like, I'd be okay with it, but not, like, blown away. They needed a generational offensive talent, and they got one. So, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I think it's a good offseason. The team is noticeably better. They are projected to be the 4th best team in baseball entering next year. They have a lot of their young talent still in place. That young nucleus of prospects are still there. They have a lot of money to spend long-term still. Like, it's like they added a $400 million contract or a 9-figure deal. They're totally in a position to give Juan Soto that mega deal at the end of the year when he hits free agency. And we'll see if they win the World Series this year. But there's still some time for them to make some minor moves. Maybe they add a reliever. Again, if they did, I just think that makes them just that much better. But I'm very encouraged by their offseason. I'm encouraged by the aggression and the willingness to just kind of go out and get guys they feel like fit their organization. And we'll see if they pan out. I'm not going to condemn their moves until we have a reason to condemn them, right? Like, I see the New York Yankees adding risks, sure, but they're risks that have upside and they're risks that could work out, and we won't know if they work out or not until the season actually transpires. But with that being said, let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did the Yankees have the Yankees had a good offseason so far? What would you give them a grade of? What do you think is next? Do you think they're making a big move? There are reports coming out. I just saw this tweet that the Phillies are not expected to bid for Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery. I imagine Monty goes back to Texas, but that Snell market looks a little weird with the Giants signing Jordan Hicks as a starter. We'll see how that goes, but as of right now, I think that this is basically it for the Yankees, and we'll have to see how things go. And again, if you guys have any ideas, if you guys think they're going to do it, if you guys have an idea what they're going to do next, let us know in the comment section below. Check out our other social medias on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. Our written content is on EmpireSportsMedia.com. You guys can follow both of our Twitter accounts; those are above our heads. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.